Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 2019 Vietnam epic war movie, Apocalypse Now, Final Cut.
The man's enlarged my mind. He's a poet, warrior in the classic sense.
Hey, well, thank you. That's very flattering of you to say. I'm happy to help whenever I can. Apocalypse Now Final Cut is the only iteration of Apocalypse Now that has a 100% fresh rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. It also has a 92% fresh rating from the audience. I'm currently reviewing every movie that has a 100% fresh rating from the critics in chronological order, and then I will rank them from worst to best once I am done reviewing them. Now, I believe the only difference between this movie and the other versions of Apocalypse Now is that this cuts out a lot of the political talk, and it cuts out a few of the scenes when they are on a boat. Now, I don't know why that cutting out those scenes deserves to make it 100% and the other ones not, but I think that all iterations of this movie deserve 100% because it is just such a fantastic movie. It has probably the greatest cast you will ever find in a movie ever. I mean, it is just an embarrassment of riches with these actors that it's crazy to even read who's in this movie. It's so amazing. Martin Sheen is Captain Benjamin Willard. He is the main character of this movie. Marlon Brando is Colonel Walter E. Kurtz, one of my favorite actors of all time, still consider On the Waterfront to probably be the greatest movie to ever win Best Picture. That's in my opinion. I know The Godfather and other movies, but for me, it's On the Waterfront. And I also really love Streetcar Named Desire. I think he's just so good in that movie. It also stars Robert Duvall as Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore. Probably my favorite Robert Duvall movie is this movie. Lawrence Fishburne as Tyrone Clean Miller, Harrison Ford as Colonel Lucas, and Dennis Hopper as the photojournalist. Now, this movie takes place during the Vietnam War, and Martin Sheen's character, Captain Benjamin Willard, is tasked at finding Colonel Kurtz, who the army believe has gone insane. He kind of has his own group of islanders, and he is going after people, the Viet Cong, but he's doing it without permission from his commanding soldiers. And he is tasked, Captain Benjamin Willard is tasked with getting rid of him with extreme prejudice. So basically, they want him to go, they want him to find this colonel, and they want him to assassinate this colonel. Now, along the way, he finds Robert Duvall's character first, who is Colonel Bill Kilgore. Now, Bill Kilgore is kind of in charge of getting them through the air and to this point where they can take a boat to the colonel. Now, Lieutenant Bill Kilgore is kind of crazy, and he really doesn't really care about this group of men. He really doesn't give them any attention until he learns that one of them is a great surfer, and he's all about surfing, and he decides that he's going to help them get to their destination because their destination has really the only good surfing spots in the entire landscape of this war. And he says, if we can get there and we can kill Charlie and we can, eradicate all of them, we'll have some really good opportunities for some really awesome waves. So he takes them into this position. They fly. There's bullets flying everywhere. They're in really pretty grave danger trying to get to this place. And as soon as they hit the ground, he's like, okay, I want you two to go out there and hit the waves and go surfing. And they're like, wait, this is insane. This is still crazy. There's fire from everywhere. How can we go surfing? He's like, listen, what's going on out there is not important. I want you guys to go surfing. So he ends up having them surf. And to be honest, this part of the movie with Colonel Bill Kilgore, Robert Duvall's character, is probably some of the best cinematography I've ever seen in my life in a movie. Now, I do own the Blu-ray 4K version of this, so that obviously doesn't hurt, but some of the greatest cinematography ever. It is just amazing how fantastic these helicopters look as they're going in the air, as they're taking all this fire, as they're raining down on their enemies. It's just absolutely amazing. I was blown away by how fantastic it is. So when they reach the boat, they meet Lawrence Fishburne's character. He's really young in this movie, and he's kind of, he's the young person in the military who wants to see a lot of action, who's excited about seeing action, who's like revved up about this, but he doesn't always have like the best wherewithal of things around him, and he makes poor decisions sometimes. So they're trying to get to Kurtz's destination. Benjamin Willard doesn't tell anyone. He's not supposed to tell anyone about where he's going and what he's supposed to be doing. So they end up getting into a lot of situations where their life's in danger. They also get to this like really crazy USO show. Like I said, and throughout the entire movie, the cinematography is just amazing. The acting is perfect. All these actors are absolutely phenomenal. Out of all of them, Robert Duvall is my least favorite actor. And I think that's just because I'm so scorned with the movies MASH and Ramblin' Rose, which I hate both of them, and he's in both of them. But besides that, the acting, and even he's good in this movie too, but the acting is just over the top phenomenal. Cinematography is amazing. The script is absolutely perfect. And there's just a sense of urgency throughout the entire movie where Benjamin Willard, he's reading throughout the movie, he's reading like these journal entries that the army got of Kurtz's, and you really get inside of Kurtz's head, even though you don't see him until the end of the movie. You really get this idea of who he is and what his motives are and why he's doing what he's doing. And for a long time, I was wondering if Benjamin Willard is even going to assassinate him when he gets to him, or is he going to kind of take his side and, kind of join him. Now, this is the second time I've seen this movie, but I first saw this movie probably when I was 18 years old, and that was 22 years ago. So I remembered absolutely nothing about it. And I certainly think that I fell asleep before I got to Kurtz's part because I didn't remember anything about that. And Marlon Brando, even though he has a small role in this movie, I mean, he's the villain that you never see. He's painted as this villain. You hear him in his journals. This is really how you need to set up a villain's role, where even though you don't see him on screen, you're always thinking about him. You're always thinking that there's this urgency to get to him. You're always thinking about where he is. Is he in the shadows? Are they going to come up to him? It's perfect. It's the perfect, I would say, villain in a movie. It's absolutely fantastic. So they end up getting to his island where Dennis Hopper's character, who's the photojournalist, he kind of meets them and he tells them that you can't really meet with Kurtz. He's not around. He's on some sort of mission. He basically tries to steer them away from Kurtz, but he does end up meeting Kurtz. Kurtz basically knows why he's there. Kurtz knows that the army wants to assassinate him because he is a bit of a loose cannon and because they think that he's crazy. And at the end of the movie, he is all for it. He wants to be like this martyr where he's killed and his people see him killed. And Benjamin Willard really has this choice that he has to make of if he's going to do it or not. I think he ends up making the right decision. I think that the ending of this movie is perfect. This movie for me is basically perfect all the way through. It is just so well done. Movies like this just aren't going to get made anymore, where you have this. I mean, like I said, this is like a who's who of actors. I mean, I don't think you're ever going to find a group of actors in a movie that are this good ever again. It's just phenomenal what they put together here. Absolutely stunning. And each person has their own little bit in the movie, to where like you have like Robert Duvall's section, you have Dennis Hopper's section, you have kind of Marlon Brando in his own spot. So they're not ever fighting for like time in this movie. They each have the perfect amount of time. They each have the perfect characters that they play. They each provide everything that you would want them to provide to the characters. It's done so well. Sometimes when you have so many big stars in a movie like this, all packed into the movie, it can get too many chefs in the kitchen type thing where it just doesn't work. where they all want to be the stars in the movie. They all want to have the most scenes in the movie, and that just isn't happening here. They all play their role perfectly. Their roles all have the correct amount of time that they're in it, and for the amount of stars in this movie, it just works so well, and it's just done so perfectly. I'm going to say it again. Some of the best cinematography I've ever seen in movies ever is in this movie. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is a beautiful movie to look at. There's so many scenes that'll just take your breath away, and you really get immersed into this movie. You really feel like you're there. You really feel like you're on this boat ride with Benjamin Willard and his crew, and you're going through these same emotions and these same tense moments that they're going through, and you're on the edge of your seat the entire time. And at the end of the movie, when he finally meets Kurtz, it's even more edge of your seat. It's even more tense. What's going to happen? What are these two going to end up doing? It's just so good. This movie has a reputation of being one of the greatest movies ever made. I would say of all the movies that I've done on this list, this is probably the most heralded as the greatest movie ever made. Well, also Seven Samurai and 12 Angry Men, but this is also up there with those movies as well, as heralded as one of the greatest movies ever made, and it definitely deserves that title. It's definitely one of the greatest war movies ever made. It is just so phenomenal. It's hard to really express into words how fantastic this movie is, but it is really, really, really good, and I think anyone should watch it. I think it's a little over 3 hours, but that's to be expected with an epic war movie. A lot of them are just really long, but you don't really ever feel that it's 3 hours. You really get through this movie really quickly. It's really paced really well, and I had a really fun time with it. I'm glad I could revisit it after all these years. I think I definitely appreciated it more than I did before, because I think, like I said, I fell asleep during it before. But yeah, I thought this movie was absolutely fantastic. It's an easy 10 out of 10. Thank you. I hope you join me next time when I review a movie that I'm going to look up right now, because I don't remember what it was called. Actually, I'll have to look it up later because it wants me to enter a password and stuff into this. So thank you. I hope you join me next time when I review my next movie. Have a great day.